Welcome to Uninterrupted. This podcast was merely curated with one goal: to build a community, a familiar thread to connect with like-minded individuals, a community where one can find purpose, one that serves you that feeling of warmth, one where you feel you belong. Our episodes feature unfiltered, free-flowing, and candid conversations with women from different walks of life who've created an impact in their own fields. So gear up to be inspired. I'm your host Samriddhi Taneja, and this podcast has been presented by MirarByStyle.me. It is the world's first ever augmented reality technology platform that enables virtual try-ons in real time for brands in the retail industry. On a very personal note, today's chat is one of our most exciting sessions. From discussing how today's weddings are a modern retake of our traditions to dissecting the psychology of spaces, we're diving deep into a phenomenal chat with one of the country's most fabulous wedding designers, Devika Narayan. Her take on weddings is super personalized, sustainable, enveloped with layers of local craftsmanship, culture, and of course, filled with love. Devika, thank you for taking the time out and being part of Uninterrupted.
Thank you so much, Samriddhi. Thank you for having me here.
Okay, I've said this to you before, but you've actually been very, very instrumental in the way I feel about weddings. And the magic that you create at the venue is very intriguing to me. But a lot of people don't really understand what a wedding designer does. So could you first start by defining what that role entails?
Sure, but first I want to tell you that I'm smiling like a mad monkey because you guys can't see me. Thank you so much for saying that. I think in very simple terms, a wedding designer essentially looks at the look and feel of what a ceremony or a function actually feels like versus a planner who looks at the logistics and coordination. But at the heart of it, I think what wedding designers do is they build an experience. If you look back on all the weddings you've been to, you'll always remember how you feel, right? I think I was 10 years old when I went to my first wedding. Until date, I can feel how tangible the happiness in the room was. And for me,
Yeah.
as wedding designers, that's what we're actually designing, those little moments that make you remember that one evening when your best friend or your cousin or your own brother or sister or your daughter got married, so that years later you can actually articulate it in a space. That's what a wedding designer does.
Right. That sounds so interesting. And at the same time, it's very different from what like a conventional job looks like, right? It's not a 9 to 5. It's not something you can predict. It's very stimulating in a lot of ways as well. But tell me a little bit more about what are like the skills or the qualifications required to become like a successful wedding designer.
First things first, every day of our life is radically different. Forget not being a 9 to 5. There is zero boredom in our life because each project brings with it its own set of challenges, its own set of like roadblocks, achievements. So each day of my life is so different. There are some days I genuinely crave a 9 to 5 job so that there is some sort of consistency in how I feel on a day-to-day basis, and the kind of issues I juggle with or the kind of challenges I juggle with. I don't think on paper there are any sort of skill sets that you must have because there's so many different sort of skill sets that come together in what we do. You could be great at with food, you could be great at drawing, at illustrating, you could be a space designer. So in terms of skills, I think those are the bare minimum skills. But what you must have, because to me everything else can be learned, is you must love weddings. Because when you're standing on site at like 2:30 a.m. at night waiting for the barats to arrive or for the guests to
Yeah.
leave or for that one flower that you were hoping would turn up. And that's the one thing that keeps you going. And you have to be game. You have to be able to think on the spot because unfortunately, there's nothing which is given at a wedding. Your deadlines are
Yeah.
harsh. You can't move them around. So you have to be quick to think on your feet. I think all you basically need is true love for what you do and a lot of common sense, and everything else around it can be learned. You can learn how to look at spaces. You can learn about fabrics, about flowers. Heck, I learned all of it. I remember when I had joined, I couldn't tell one fabric from the other. And today I can tell you where it's from. I can tell you if the warp or the weft is polyester. To me, there's so much at a wedding that you learn on a job and you learn out of sheer experience because I cannot possibly tell you what all can go wrong at a wedding today. It's only after you've done enough, it's only after you've researched enough, been on ground enough that you're able to learn far more. It's not a skill that you can learn sitting on a computer or learn from a book. It's one of those few professions where you have to be out there experiencing the different things that come your way to actually make sense of what is happening.
Right. So fair points been established that, these are things that you can pick up like on ground. And with your experience, I feel like, you've kind of designed weddings from like contemporary weddings, dramatic weddings, artisanal weddings, and it's usually, shaped by the personal experiences of the bride and the groom and their families in India. But tell me more about what that creative process looks like. So when you meet a bride and a groom, how do you like take it from there?
So, firstly, I think it has a lot to do with how we look at weddings. For me, I've always felt that when it comes to homes or fashion, we always think of making a personal statement or how they are an extension of your own personal style, right? And I've always felt
Yeah.
that weddings in India have only been about grandeur and sort of showmanship, or in some cases, just getting it over with. For me, the wedding is a starting point of when families and a couple comes together. And for me, it's a very powerful statement that your wedding should look like what the two of you care for, what the bride and groom care for, what the families care for. And I work off that simple thought. So, in terms of our process, it starts with a lot of questioning, getting to know the families better, getting to know the bride and groom better, see what matters to them. And then from that point onwards, we start articulating that into a visual language, seeing what works in a space, what are the challenges, what are the parameters we need to work around, the time frame, the season, the light, small details like that. And from the simple likes and dislikes, we begin to build this whole visual vocabulary around them of what their preferences are, what their personal histories are, what they want their guests to think about when they come to a space. Because to me, that's equally important. I've been to so many weddings where people don't think about their guests at all. They're just trying to wow their guests, but I want guests to come there, how they engage with the psychology of the space, how they react to the spaces, what interests them, what makes them stay longer at a party. And then we start building on each of these nuances. And I think all of this is almost like putting building blocks together and removing. It's like a elaborate game of
Yeah.
Jenga where you pull out what doesn't work and then you build on certain aspects of it. And I think the toughest part of our job is actually bringing it to life, because we work a lot with artists, work a lot with craftsmen. When you work in an industry which is so predominantly based on actual human beings and actual human hands making the products you're working with, I cannot tell you the number of times I have ordered a piece of, I don't know, a glass from a person who's only made the same design of glasses all his life. And on the day of the function, he has produced something completely radically different just because he felt like it. So I think it's the coming together which is the most fun part of what we do, to actually see how simple likes and dislikes can actually become an entire space, and then to watch guests actually walk around in that space and be inspired by the things you have spent 6 months discussing, that one color of flower which was so important, to the way a lounge was placed because you wanted families to speak to each other at the function, all those tiny details that make up that one grand event of the wedding.
Right. So it's quite a structured process that way. It's almost like a constant tango between exploration and then kind of like execution and
Correct.
curation of that actual thing. You mentioned something very interesting about the psychology of spaces.
Yeah.
Tell me, how does that add to the essence of the wedding?
At the end of the day, a wedding is for two families and their extended friends and relatives. And for me, it's very important to see how they experience a space, how they're influenced by it. Just like small things. I'm sure you've been to a wedding where when you walk in, most hotels have a pre-function where you put food down the beginning, and then when you walk in, you have to find like the mandap tucked in a corner. To me, that's the wrong sort of impression you give people, right? Because when you walk in, they're confused. Should we eat first? Should we go to the ceremony first? What are we supposed to do? Or so many times the seating is laid out in a way where people can't speak to each other. The music is so loud that they don't get to actually chat with each other. And at most weddings, there are families that haven't met each other for many years. It's the last wedding in a generation. And for me, it's very important to build a space that brings people together. And that's what I mean by the psychology of a space, of how a space actually influences people to stay longer at an event, to act a certain way, to embrace each other, to bring people closer, to actually inspire them to think a little more.
I never thought that so much would go into, just like the space that you see at a wedding. Because, as a guest, you just walk in and then.
And it's so funny because just the smallest tweaks there can inspire guests to act differently, to behave differently. And that's what we do.
Yeah, Devika, I've been a part of an experiential marketing agency myself, and it is not easy. You know, it looks fun on the outside, where people usually come to our Instagram handle and be like, oh, this is what you do. This sounds like fun. And, you know, it's very interesting. And it is interesting, but it is like, you know, millions of tiny details that kind of come together and add weight to the final experience. And I just feel like, you know, to do something like that, it has to be driven by pure passion. So tell me, what is your key motivator? Like, why did you choose to design weddings for a living in the first place?
I don't think there's a straight answer to it, at least not when I was in the process of becoming a wedding designer. When you look back at life, it all sort of makes sense, right? I majored
Yeah.
in English literature. I was very keen to do a master's that I didn't get admission for. My next bet was to do something in the field of space design. I wanted to do interiors or architecture. And I used to love doing up my room as a kid. I used to love putting the dinner table together or moving things around my room. So interiors felt like the most obvious choice. My greatest
Right.
tragedy, though, in life is that I can't draw. I can't draw to save my life.
Okay.
If someone had to kill me and at gunpoint, that like draw a straight line, I couldn't draw it. I challenged myself years ago that if I was ever able to consistently draw a straight line on a piece of paper, I'd put myself to design school, and well, I haven't been able to do it. So weddings at that point was an upcoming field. It was the only sort of field that did not require me to know how to draw. And that's how I wound up at a wedding planner's office. And I was like, I think you should give me a job. And I was so lucky that she did. And that's how I became a wedding designer. There was no sort of form to it. I don't think I was ever even planning to do this. It's just how, like I said, when you look back, all the pieces align and all of these things align perfectly. But I trained to be a journalist. I wanted to be an interior designer. And here I am putting all of those skills, all the things that I learned in psychology and in philosophy and in literature overall in history, putting that into designing weddings.
So, you know, very interesting part is that I feel like everyone, if not in a very detailed sense, still has like, you know, everyone has that idea of like an ideal wedding that they would want for themselves. Some folks go all out and some people love minimalism. You've often spoken about mindful weddings. So tell me, how do you kind of apply that theory to these varying scales of weddings?
I think it boils down to what people truly care for. It's almost like an
Hmm.
ideograph, right? When you sit down and you meet someone, you boil it down to these three things matter to me. And then how can you make sure that those three things are echoed through and through and at some level are in sync with your own values as well? I've always been very honest in saying that people don't hire us because we're the best wedding designers in the country. They hire us because they believe in the same values as us. We want our guests to enjoy a certain bunch of things. I think we want our weddings to have the same kind of visual vocabulary. And that's why people work with us. And for me, it's almost like how there's a coming together of families. It's a coming together of values,
Yeah.
of ideas, of aesthetics on a table, and then how you're able to translate that into something that works seamlessly. It's something we've been brought up, especially in India, to work with different culture, work with the different thoughts, ideas, and then actually make a sort of a fabric. It's like a warp and weft, right? Make a fabric that looks
Yeah.
beautiful on its own. And I think that's what we do in terms of even mindfulness, just making sure that you think of the smaller things, you look at the bigger picture while you're thinking of the smaller things. I speak a lot about where are things coming from, where are they going to go at the end of a project, how are they being used, how can you make sensitive choices and sensible alternatives to things that have happened over time, and how just by being a little more thoughtful you can actually impact not just the people attending the wedding but also the people building the wedding, the people designing the wedding, the people having to clean up after the wedding. If you can influence every one of those lives or even some of those lives with small mindful choices, it can go a long way to making the world a better place. And to me, that's what I'm out to do. I'm not out to make beautiful weddings. I'm on my own little agenda wanting to make the world a better place, literally one wedding at a time.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I've also seen a lot of content around table styling and so much more on your feed and like across your platforms. So tell me, how can one extend that concept of mindfulness to, say, their living rooms or their lounges?
For me, table styling started with the idea of the table. For me, when I was growing up, the dining table was a very, very important part of our lives. My mother banned phones, books, everything. We all had to have dinner together. As a team in office, lunch is very important. We discuss what's happening in the world. We gossip, we sit together and enjoy a meal. Even at a wedding, I noticed that that's the one place people pause. They notice what's on a table, they put their feet up, they enjoy a meal. And to me, the act of sharing a meal is extremely, extremely special. with anybody. And that's the sort of aesthetic that I wanted to bring into my tables. And when I talk about table styling, for me, it's got to do with celebrating literally the everyday. We all eat food. It's such a sacred relationship that we have with food. And for me, styling a table is honoring that simple tradition. If you were to come to my house, there is no television in my living room. My entire living room is designed in a way where people can sit together and talk. There is no tall flowers in the middle. It's not built for grandeur. It's a place where I want my friends and family to come over to have honest conversation. The music is never loud. There's always lots of food and alcohol flowing. And I think it's that small bits of mindfulness of honoring who we are as people and what we truly enjoy as people. And just by turning your furniture a certain way, adding the simplest of details to a table, you can actually make each aspect of your life more thoughtful. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It does.
On most evenings, my husband and I sit in front of a television set and have dinner. I'm the biggest hypocrite because while I talk about this, that's how I have dinner on most days. But there is that one dinner a week when you have friends over that you want to sit together and celebrate the tiny meal. So many times I just do breakfast for myself. It's my favorite meal of the day, by the way. And I'll set up an elaborate table.
Yeah.
My dog will be there and we'll both sit. I'll read a book while I have breakfast. And it's my little lazy sort of indulgence.
Right. But do you think you're also like big on minimalism? Is that a concept that kind of flows through you? I mean, your design, your life, your
I am
aesthetic?
a terrible minimalist. I am a hoarder. I am a maximalist. I'm actually not even a maximalist. I'm this person who's sitting on a fence. I have a tremendous belief when I'm designing in restraint. I think it's very important to know where to stop and not just fill up a space or a room with things just because you want to. I
Yeah.
question my design, my products a lot. For me, it's a tremendous focus on why does something exist in a certain space. But I am a hoarder of memories, of things. I go shopping all over the world and I bring back the most useless things and display them and feel ridiculously happy about it. So I think I'm a minimalist nightmare.
That's very interesting, actually. I saw one of the videos where I think it was around your home, and I feel like it's beautiful. So I don't think you have to worry about bringing ridiculous things. I feel
I
like they
also
look
don't
great.
believe in matching things. Whatever makes you happy should find its way into your life.
That's fab. But on the contrary, I feel like minimalism has been a big-ish theme, at least through the lockdown, where I've seen really intimate affairs happening, at least in my friends and family, in say like backyards or farmhouses. That's where like a lot of people are getting married right now. But nonetheless, we all know the big fat Indian wedding is here to stay. That's not going anywhere, right? No matter what happens with the industry. So tell me, what is your take on the wedding industry in, say, the post-COVID? I don't know when that's going to happen, but like in the post-COVID scenario per
So a bunch
se.
of things. I think more than minimalism, we're all embracing the Swedish concept of Scandinavian concept of huga. Am I saying that right? It's about what brings you joy, and I think that's what this
Right.
lockdown has taught us to surround ourselves with things that make us happy. Our friends and family who've become our everyday in terms of video calls and voice calls because none of us can cook and clean. Or just for me, what has been the most interesting part of the lockdown is we've all had time with ourselves. We've all learned what is truly important. And we're going to continue to prioritize that in every aspect of our life. To me, my neighborhood fruit seller is far more precious than any other multinational out there because he saved my ass in the last 6 months. He got me
Right.
everything, by the way, from batteries to a box of strawberries. And for me, he is a lifesaver. My friends and family who made the time, I've always been so busy, I've never had the time to chat with all of them, who I've been able to speak to. And I think weddings are echoing the same sort of sentiment. They're becoming a lot more local. They're not becoming minimal. People are choosing to call people who truly matter to them versus everybody else that you just had to call. Suddenly, there's no pretense. You don't have to call everybody. You in fact, have the perfect excuse to only invite people who you enjoy spending time with. And I,
Lovely.
I don't think there's a post-COVID change, honestly. This has been a change that is we've seen coming for years now. We've just got the perfect excuse for it. But I think people are choosing better. And I'm very excited because suddenly we're in a world where we want to work with a lot more local elements, where design is at the forefront. I've always been scared to do a 200 people wedding versus a 2000 people wedding because your closest friends and family are going to
Hmm.
notice every single detail. So you're actually making those personal details for your friends and family. You're making something for people that matter to you. You're thinking more consciously because of what's happening in the world. You're thinking more sustainably because you want to work with more local elements, you want to work with more local art and craft and create employment. And to me, this is the best time for weddings in India.
That makes a lot of sense. I have one last question before we move to the last phase. Tell me, how big a role does technology play in your line of
Um,
work?
a lot, starting with the fact that we have to communicate with brides and grooms all over the world. Very often, even before
Yeah.
COVID times, we weren't able to meet them because a lot of them work and they couldn't just drop everything because they were getting married and travel cross country multiple times a year. Starting with communicating with them to actually all our designs are given live on computers, right? Using different kinds of softwares. I live my life of Excel. So technology is very important. And to me, even more now because technology is helping connect us to craftsmen and artisans and small town suppliers who are actually creating a lot of the products you see at our weddings. And it's been a beautiful sort of connector. I can sit here today and get my weaver in Banaras to weave something for me, or get this really small potter in Pokhran in the outskirts of Jaisalmer to make diyas for me, or to make some beautiful vases for me. And for me, it's almost as if technology has brought the world closer. And it's extremely important in the world of weddings because I don't have to travel today anymore. I can sit in my own house simply using the most amazing communication systems we've built to literally change the world and actually put weddings together completely.
Right, that's fab. Okay, I have one last rapid
Yay!
fire round for you. It's
I feel
called
very
High
cocky with
Five.
Karan.
Okay, three things to remember while choosing your wedding venue.
Season, time, and light.
Okay, a wedding trend that you don't understand.
Vintagey bird cages and pearls and ball gowns on beaches. I don't understand beach weddings. Why am I wearing my Sabyasachi to a beach? And when I have so much culture, why do I have those weird crystals and bird cages and pearls hanging all over? It bothers me at a very deep level.
Okay, cool. Three words to describe the wedding aesthetic of any wedding you've
Um,
designed.
Personal, eclectic, thoughtful.
Okay, your number one tip for wedding planners or designers.
Use your common sense. Just because you've done something all your life doesn't mean you need to keep doing it. I mean, use your common sense, see what works in that moment, and not just keep going with something that you've always done.
Okay, fab. The most interesting production element that you've ever experimented with.
Wire.
Okay, Devika, thank you
Thank
so
you,
much. I've had
Samriti.
such a great
Thank you
time
so
chatting
much.
with you. I've made mental pointers in my head for my
Call
own
me when you
wedding.
get married.
Perfect. Thanks so much. Bye. For everyone who tuned in today, thank you so much for taking the time out and listening to our conversation. If this conversation struck a chord with you, don't forget to subscribe to our podcast and share this with your friends and family. If you have a take on the topic we discussed or if you'd like to share some feedback, please feel free to write to me. I'm going to catch you next week with yet another uninterrupted conversation. Have a great evening ahead.